Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name's Alex and today we are going to be painting our fire truck cutout in the style 4. And I already have this drawn out on my board, so if you want to pause the video right now, you guys can go ahead and use a pencil and just kind of draw what I've drawn on here if you would like to. If you want to change anything, feel free. For right now, I do not have as much design on here drawn out as I would any other cutout, just because we're going to be painting a lot over top and we will be adding details on later once everything is already on there. So we're going to just go ahead and hop right into it. So the first thing that I want to do is go ahead and color all the red of the fire truck. So that's going to be around these windows, down here. I'm going to leave this area blank down here. I'm going to go around all of these like that. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my brush and just start painting. So if you want to watch me paint and then go ahead and start just to see what I'm talking about, then you can. Otherwise, you can go ahead and just start painting. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and keep painting this, and then I will probably do 2 coats of this red. So I'm going to just jump to this being all covered in red. And if you want to just fast forward to that part so you can see what I've painted, go ahead. But I will be right back after having the 2 coats. Okay, so I have 2 coats of red and I did dry this with a hair dryer, so it is nice and dry, ready to go. So we're just gonna kind of break up a lot of the main pieces on here, and then we will go ahead and add in all the detail work. So I'm gonna make this fire truck a little more simplified, something that would like be nice for like a kid's room or something like that, just something a little more simple and less like super detailed and realistic looking. So I have the base of red. Now what we're gonna do is I have these 4 little panels right here, and I do have a reference on my laptop next to me over here, just because obviously I don't know what a fire truck looks like from memory. So I'm just kind of basing it off of this kind of cartoony fire truck that I've found, and I'm just going to kind of take some inspiration from that. So for the ladder up here, I know that's kind of a lot of detail right here going on, but what I want to do is I'll probably just take some gray and I'm going to color the whole part right here, this whole section, kind of covering the ladder. And it is okay if I cover some of it up because I can redraw it back in, which is not a problem. So even if you cover up too much and you really can't see the ladder anymore, you can always refer back to the beginning of the video to redraw it back in and then come back to this point. But I'm going to be coloring this bottom line here gray. I'm going to color this gray, and I'm also going to be coloring these 4 panels gray, and also the kind of rim part for the tires here. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing that now, and then we will go ahead and continue on. So if you want to pause the video, do that. If you want to fast forward through this, go for it. I'm just going to put a little time lapse here and you guys can go ahead and watch. All right, so now that I have these two pieces here, I'm going to go ahead and paint the rest of these three sections right here. I'm going to paint this bottom part here. I'm not painting this thinner line that I have up top, but I am going to go ahead and paint this bottom part, that gray color, and then I'm also going to go ahead and put the rims on here also gray. So I'm going to go ahead and do all of that, clean up everything, and then I will be right back. All right, so I have all of my gray laid out on here. So if you wanted to, if you fast forward to this point and you wanted to pause just to see where I was at, then that's fine. Go ahead and you can take your time and then get back to the video. But this is all the gray that I have laid out right now. So the next thing I want to do is I have these three little windows right here, and I'm going to make them like a very light blue. And then after that, what we'll do is add all of the black details. So I will get the ladder in there, and then I will also make this line up here probably like a really, really dark gray, almost black, and then the tires will also be black themselves too. So I'm gonna go ahead and I switched a brush in between me pausing the video here. I have this, which is a really good brush to have, especially for making like squares and sharp corners and stuff. It is just this kind of square flat brush like this, and I use that to make these a little more square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of blue, a little bit of white, and I'm just going to go ahead and fill out these windows here, and then we'll jump right into adding some of the black details. So I really love this brush just because I love to use the flat of it, and I can really make some nice straight lines using the side of the brush. So it really helps me get on those corners there. So I do suggest getting some sort of flat kind of square brush. And that is okay if you make a few mistakes or if you go outside the line, all that stuff, because I am going to be adding like a really nice sharp outline around most of this stuff anyway. So it'll kind of clean up all of those little rough edges. And as the wood starts to kind of absorb that paint, I'll kind of go back over top. It dries really fast, so as long as your paint is dry, you can always go back with extra coats. Mine seems to be drying really quick here. So like I said, if you do go outside the line a little bit, that is okay. So something like that, and then we'll add some highlights and stuff to that later on. But I'm also going to go ahead now and add the black on here. So I do have a tool that I like to use that I've mentioned in some of my other videos. I have these paint markers from Walmart, and they say Painters, that's kind of the brand, and they come in all different kinds of colors. I have it in black and white, but I highly recommend using these paint markers just because they're really good for kind of finer details. So it's kind of this like fine tipped little marker over here, and I'm going to kind of use that to, I'm going to turn this here. I'm going to kind of use this to outline where my ladder is. I can see through the paint that I've already added. And it's not the most straight line, but I'm going to go ahead and reinforce the detail and all of that So I highly recommend, like I said, getting these markers. They're very helpful. They're very helpful with very like thin line work. So I am just going to keep using this paint marker, and I'm going to go ahead and redraw back in the ladder, and then I will color my tires black and all that stuff. So I'm just gonna fast forward through all this. So I apologize, my camera was not recording, but I do have the ladder all finished like that, and I did use that paint marker, like I said, right here. And what I'm going to do now is color in the top line a very, very dark gray, darker than this, and then I will do the tires black. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. All right, and as you can see, I did get into the tires a little bit, and that's okay because I'm going to cover it up with black anyway. So what we're gonna do now is go ahead and color the tires in black, and then we will move on. All right, so those are the tires colored with the black. And the very last thing that I want to do before we get into all the detail is I want to color the little lights at the top of the fire truck. So I'm going to color those a little bit of red mixed with a tiny bit of white. I just want to make them a little less bright than what is on here just because they are going to be lights. So I will just take a tiny bit of white. I don't want to take too much white because then I'll start to get pink. So I'm just taking a little bit. And as you can see, it's like slightly pink, but it's not like super bright pink. So this is just for me to separate the lights from the truck. All right, so now that we have all of this on here, I'm gonna go ahead and blow dry everything and make sure all the base of this is nice and dry so that we can add all of the line work and the details. So I'm gonna go ahead and blow dry this and then I will be right back. Okay, so now that we have everything nice and dry, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to be painting a white stripe that kind of goes right in the front part of the truck here. I have this line that was drawn in pencil before I started painting anything. So what I'm going to do is, if you lost that line, it is just a line that stops right here and it is right where this kind of corner is and you can redraw that back in. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pencil. It might be a little hard to see from my view here, but what I'm going to do is take my ruler. I'm going to just go a tiny bit below the windows here. And with my pencil, I'm going to draw a line going across like this. I'm going to go a little bit further down, do the same thing. So I have this that's going to be white here, and I'm just going to use that as a little detail. And then I'm also going to add a little circle kind of at the bottom right here, just like that, and that will be some sort of like a headlight or some sort of light. So now that we have this on here, what we're gonna do is start adding in some of the white details. onto the painting here. So I'm going to be taking I have a smaller brush here. It's kind of this like pointed smaller brush, and I'm going to be using that to draw in the white line. So I'm just going to go ahead right on top. As long as my red is dry, this is going to be fine to do. So now we have this here. Now this will end up drying down a little more see-through, so just make sure that you let it dry before adding another coat on top of that. But now that I have this white line here, it's a nice little detail. What I'm going to do is add some other white details kind of around everywhere. So I'm going to color in my headlight really fast so I don't forget about it, and I am going to be using that same brush, but I am going to be mixing some white with some yellow to break it up a little bit. And I'm just going to go ahead and color in this headlight, just like that. Now you can add any more headlights anywhere that you would like to. If you want to make this a little more realistic, then just make your reference picture a little more realistic. But I'm fine with that, and then I'm going to let this white line dry, and eventually I will add another coat on top of that. But we're going to kind of concentrate on adding some details of the windows here. So I'm going to be using this script brush here, and I got this from Michael's, and it is just a very long bristled brush. So I'm going to put some water on that. And I want to add some reflections to the window, so I'm going to take a little bit of white. And to do that, I kind of like to add these like random lines, and it kind of gives it that like reflective look. And you want them to be pretty random. You want some like longer ones, some shorter ones. So just try to be random with it. And then I'm also going to add a white line at the bottom of each of the lights. So I'm going to go just like that. And that's already popping out a little bit more, which is good. For the rest of like the line details in here, which we'll do in just a moment, I'm going to be using my paint marker. If you have a brush that you prefer to use and you want to use brushes, go for it. I like the paint markers just because it gives it a more subtle line, and it's not so opaque unless you do a lot of coats. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this to here right now, and we're going to go ahead and start adding some line work onto these. So we will do those, and then I will stop right here and dry everything, add another coat, and then I'll be right back with that. But we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how these markers work again. Here's my white one. Got to shake it up really good. And if you don't have these, like I said, I highly, highly, highly recommend them. It makes life so much easier when you're creating lines and trying to do finer detail work. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to outline each of these gray squares with the marker. And if you wanted to use the brush and the paint, you can. All right, so I have those outlined. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take horizontal lines and go straight across all the way up. And remember, they don't have to be perfect lines. If you want them to be perfect, you can use a ruler. And any little mistake you make, you can just take whatever color you're using and cover it back up. But that's what I'm gonna do for these sort of like, I imagine them to be like some sort of like a hatch where like all the supplies would be. So I'm also going to be using my black marker, and at the bottoms of each of these, I'm just gonna make these little kind of oval shapes to be like the handle. Just like that. And then I'm also going to go ahead and switch back to my marker here, my white one, and I'm going to also outline my windows. So just like that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another coat of white onto this stripe here, and then we will get into the last little details. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I have everything nice and dry and up to this point right now. So what we're gonna do next is just add the last details to the truck here. So the first thing I wanna do is for the lights, I wanna give them a little bit of dimension. So I'm gonna be taking a small brush here, and I'm going to be using just red, just like from the beginning. And in each of the lights, I'm going to be adding a little kind of oval of just that red to like the kind of right hand side of these. Just like that. And then inside of these little red ovals, I'm going to add a white dot on the inside. And that's just going to kind of add a little bit of depth to this and make them more look like a light. So I'm taking a little bit of white, and I'm going to add some white dots in these two. Just like that. And then with my smaller brush also, you can also use the marker if you have it for all of this stuff, but I like to use the paint so to make it a little bit brighter. So I'm going to take a little more white, and we're going to start adding some highlights onto the truck here. So anywhere where it's like an edge or like a corner, I like to add these little lines of highlight just to make them pop. So I'm going to, maybe I'll go like right over here and here, go across the top, maybe add a dot. So I'm just kind of choosing this pretty randomly. Obviously, if you want to follow my exact dots and all of that I'm making, you absolutely can. But using just this brush, I like to add in all of these little highlights, and you can see that it's already kind of making the fire truck just like a little more glossy. I'll even kind of add one big one right there. So I'm going to go ahead and continue on with these highlights, and then you can always do them yourself, or if you want to fast forward to the finished highlights, then you guys can do that, and then just kind of follow what I've already done. All right, I have some highlights on all of like the actual truck itself up here. I'm gonna go ahead now and add a few highlights to the bottom part here. And you can see that I'm kind of just following the curves if I am going against a curve. So just make sure if you're going straight across that you're making the lines straight across. And if you're making them curved against somewhere, that make sure you're following the curve. So for instance, if I'm going here, I want to follow that curve. So just like that. Another thing I want to do is add some highlights onto the rims. So I'm just adding like 2 or 3 lines on those to kind of brighten them up. And as you can see, it's really brightening everything up a lot. So I'm going to leave the highlights like that. And the very last things that I kind of want to do is anywhere where I want some black lines, I will go ahead and add those. So I'm going to take my black marker and I'm going to reestablish this line that I had from the beginning. Just like that. And then I think I want to add a line that kind of separates this gray from that gray. Just kind of cleans everything up a little bit. Whoops. And that is okay. You can always add more paint. Kind of fix that. So I'll just take a little bit of that darker gray that I made earlier. Actually, just kidding, I'm going to make the lighter gray. Gonna go ahead and clean that spot up. Just like that. So that is going to be, so now that I have this kind of cleaned up, I'm going to go ahead and I'm also going to add a little highlight to, probably use the paint. I'm going to add a little highlight of white onto the light, the headlight there. Give it a little bit of a gloss. I also want to add a highlight that kind of curves around like that to give it a little more shape. But other than that, I think that this is going to be the finished look here. So here is the fire truck all finished. If there is any other details that you want to add onto here, you're more than welcome to. But this is going to be it for my painting. So thank you guys so much for watching this video and following along with me. And I hope to see you guys in future videos. So thank you so much and have a good day.